All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Labor peace will continue in the National Basketball Association as the players and owners have agreed tentatively on a new collective bargaining agreement for the next 7 years. The NBA has not had a work stoppage since the lockout that delayed the beginning of the 2011-2012 season, which led to the league having a 66 game regular season that year as opposed to the customary 82. Labor peace is key in any sport. And if you're the NBA, both the players and owners, why even put a damper on a good thing that you currently have? And you think about it, the NBA's product is immensely popular and lucrative, not only in the United States, but internationally as well. The NBA, in my opinion, does a tremendous job and arguably better than any other professional sports league in the United States as far as marketing their stars and superstars. And you think about it, you consistently have marquee games from the association on multiple platforms. The NBA has a television deal with Turner, as well as their television deal with ESPN, ABC. So at the end of the day, if it ain't broke, then you know what? You ain't got to go out there and fix it. Now, a new provision in the new CBA will hinder teams that are willing to go over the luxury tax even more. Basically, a second salary cap apron at the $17.5 million line over the tax line. So those big spenders will no longer have access to the taxpayer mid-level in free agency. So that's a game changer right there. The new CBA will also create more spending and trade opportunities for the spendthrift teams, the cheaper teams, if you will, which includes larger trade exceptions. So that's going to be big as well. Part of this new deal is aimed at curbing load management. I say that because now you're going to have to play at least 65 games in order to be eligible for postseason awards. And that includes the NBA's MVP, all NBA teams, and so forth. And that's a big part of it. That's going to be very important because at the end of the day, you have players around the league who are being paid handsomely. And then on top of that, in some of their contracts, respectively, there are kicks, there are incentives in there for finishing top three in the balloting for a specific award, winning a specific award. So now that's going to be added motivation to go out there and play, and that's going to be important. This proposed in-season tournament, I'm not a fan of it, just like I'm really not a fan of the play-in tournament. But at the end of the day, it's going to happen. The NBA is not going to change the minimum age requirement from 19. And I'm not shocked that they're not doing that. I mean, there is somewhat of a sentiment of people that want to see that done with. But at the end of the day, you figure the one and done rule, benefits the NBA front offices because now it gives them an opportunity to go out there and see, these youngsters play 1 year collegiately, maybe go overseas for a year or so and play as well, as opposed to taking them out of high school. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody's talented enough to play in the NBA, they're talented enough. It's just a proven, etched in excuse right now, in my opinion, for front offices and owners around the league to not go out there and talent evaluate properly. Because again, we've seen guys over the years come straight out of the NBA, to come straight out of high school rather, to the NBA and have success. And of course, we've seen others that have not. And of course, the guys that have, kudos to the talent evaluators out there who saw something in them, and also kudos to those respective organizations that were able to develop and cultivate said talent. But at the end of the day, obviously keeping them out benefits the NBA, and also, of course, obviously it benefits the college game. And of course, with that said, the Kentuckys and the Dukes of the world will continue to go out there and recruit the one and done kids. Now, at the end of the day, what do I like about this deal? For me, first and foremost, um, I applaud the NBA's effort to go out there and curb load management, just like they've pushed the narrative as far as trying to push or curb tanking, in the last couple of years. And I think more you're seeing it more this year with the parity in the NBA, especially how tightly contested things are. Basically, from four down in the Western Conference, basically from like 4 to 11 in regards to the standings. But nonetheless, this has been a hot topic for a very long time. And the load management, I'm not going to put it all on the players because we've had some of them come out publicly and talk about how the front offices are telling them they're not playing on said night. And a lot of that has to do from that standpoint, it has to do with analytics. And regardless of the sport, I feel like analytics has their place to a certain point, but at the end of the day, guys got to go out there and play. I mean, guys in recent years have complained about the back to backs. The NBA has limited as many back to back games that they have. And again, getting back to having the lucrative television deals with the likes of ABC and ESPN, with the likes of Turner, when you're putting marquee teams out there at in a prime time slot. Those advertisers, those networks, they want to see the stars play, and then you tune in and you see the backups. That's not good for business. And then, of course, the narrative from the in-game experience, from a fan standpoint. Some fans out there, they might only be able to afford to go to one NBA game per year. And I'm sure if I was a paying fan going to a game, I'd be very disappointed to not go out there and see my favorite player be playing, or maybe if it's a team from the West going to the East or vice versa, and you're only going to see that guy play that one time for the season. That's very disappointing, and it's kind of a hindrance, for a person to go out there and spend their money on a ticket and concessions and everything else to get to the game. So, nonetheless, curbing this load management aspect, I think, is something that Adam Silver is focusing on, the NBA's commissioner, just like he has in recent years as far as the tanking. And there's only so much that he could do, but I think this is an added level in it to kind of show, hey, you know what? We need to put a stop to this. And again, having the minimum as far as 65 games to be eligible for these postseason awards, I think that is a big step in the right direction from limiting the quote unquote load management. I also like the fact that this deal is going to give players the opportunity to get more money. And that's always been, a big thing with me as far as spreading the wealth, because think about it, if an owner is willing to go out there and pay a guy $200 million regardless of the sport, how much is said owner making? We have some owners across professional sports that know that theoretically they really don't have to spend a lot of money to make money. They rely on the revenue sharing, they rely on the TV deals. So with this new contract, these guys, as far as the players, they're going to get another opportunity to go out there and get a bigger paycheck. There's plenty of advertising money involved in the NBA. There's plenty of television money involved in the NBA. And at the end of the day, these young men only have a limited window in their respective lives to go out there and earn top dollar from playing basketball. So you know what? If every opportunity that you have, go for it. Now, on the flip side, what I do not like about this deal, and I'm going to touch on something that I recently talked about, is hindering, in my opinion, the spending of teams that are willing to go out there and spend. And of course, that, additional $17.5 million over the tax line. And I say this because there's always, regardless of the sport, there's always going to be a divide when it comes to the finances. And typically it's between the bigger market teams and the smaller market teams. Now, some small market teams are willing to spend. It all depends on the owner or the ownership group. And of course, one big example of this in the NBA currently, you got the Los Angeles Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. And of course, the Clippers play in one of the bigger media markets in the country. And the same thing could be said for the Warriors playing out there in San Francisco. Nonetheless, you have two ownership groups. Of course, Steve Ballmer with the Clippers, who've basically said, you know what, we don't care about the luxury tax. We'll go over and we're willing to pay. Obviously, there are some ownership groups that are not willing to do that. I always think back to Dan Gilbert, the longtime owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, when the Cavs ultimately were able to win the NBA championship in 2016. He celebrated the championship, yes, but he complained and griped more about going over the luxury tax and having to pay that penalty than he was as far as celebrating his own championship. So that just gives you the mindset of some owners. And again, that's his prerogative. But at the end of the day, I feel like, when you put things like this, in a CBA, you're hindering, the guys or gals that want to go out there and spend on their said on said teams. Now, I will say this. The people that are willing to spend from an ownership group, regardless of the sport, regardless of what hindrances are put in writing into a CBA, these people, they're going to find a way, and I'm not even going to say a workaround. They're going to find a way to go out there and do what they want to do. At the end of the day, you got a room full of billionaires, and they did not become that successful just by backing down in the face of adversity. So for the Steve Ballmers of the world, they're going to go out there and they're going to find a way to go out there and continuously spend and try to put a successful product on the basketball court. Obviously, in the case of Steve Ballmer, he has spent money. It has not led to an NBA championship yet. But if you are a fan of the Clippers, and of course, 25 years ago, you really didn't have a lot of those, but nonetheless, if you are a fan of the Clippers, you definitely have to be happy to have an owner leading your team that is willing to throw all caution to the wind in regards to spending and putting a quality product and a potential, excuse me, championship product out there on the floor. So that's to me one of the biggest things as far as a hindrance there. For me, I have to say the ultimate winner of this deal is Adam Silver. And I say that because I think this is another notch for his legacy because you always, you want to go out there and continuously have labor peace. Obviously, the NBA has had several lockouts, and the one that hurt the league the most is the one back in 1999. And of course, I do remember that. Any to some of the younger fans, ages 20 and under, probably, well, definitely don't remember that. But nonetheless, I do remember that, and it was a bad time for basketball, and it took them some time to get it rolling again. And again, like I talked about before, you have a very good thing going. There's money going around right now for both the players and owners. You have a very popular product. And again, you have the marquee players, and you have an aging LeBron James. And I say an aging LeBron James, but just because he's, a guy that's going to be 40 soon, but nonetheless, he's still getting it done. You think about the guys in their prospective primes, the Kevin Durant's of the world, the Giannis's of the world, the Steph Curry's, the up and comers to the table, like the Jason Tatum's, your Joel Embiid's, your Nikola Jokic's. So when it's all said and done, the NBA has a bevy of stars, and like I said, they do a darn good job of marketing said guys. Now, I will say this about Adam Silver. He has said in the past that he is in a partnership with the players. That's a good thing. And at the end of the day, he still has to realize, obviously, he works for the owner. So, he wants to keep the players happy, but he has to keep the ownership group happy. And that's a big difference right there. But nonetheless, this is definitely a win for his legacy, in my opinion. This deal is going to set the foundation for the next generation of players and fans. And again, I say that because it all comes back to the hot topic of this podcast, which is labor peace. Labor peace gives you the opportunity to consistently go out there and have a consistent quality product. There's no stoppages because whenever you have a work stoppage, things can get very nasty and dicey or dicier than usual. at the negotiation table because both sides are desperate to get it done. And there can be some mudslinging, but led by Adam Silver, and of course the ownership groups and the Players Association, there was, a big step in the right direction as far as wanting to get this deal done because both sides wanted to get it done. There was no animosity. They went out there, they took care of business. And because of that, you have labor peace. You have labor peace. You don't slow down the machine, if you will. The money machine that the NBA has is one of the most powerful ones globally in the world of sports. So at the end of the day, you got a 7-year deal. If you're the NBA, you can both sides, excuse me, have the opportunity to opt out of the sixth after the 6th year possibility that it happens. But at the end of the day, I feel as long as Adam Silver is leading the way, and as long as you have owners that want to get this done and players that want to get this done, the NBA is going to be set up for success for the coming years, definitely heading into the next decade. So at the end of the day, they got their deal done. Everybody goes home a winner. The fans keep watching, the players keep playing, and the players and owners, along with the television networks, will continue to cash the checks. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.